Hello, I hope you're safe and well wherever you are. In this video, I want to explain about the LDS exam, which is run by Royal College of Surgeons in England. This exam is a qualification that enables you to start practicing as a dentist in the UK and a GDC registration number. I'm going to explain to you the steps and the parts of the exam, what documents you need to prep for it, and toward the end we're going to compare it to the ORE pathway as well, from the frequency, differences in components, and also the cost, which can be a quite significant decision-making factor. So this exam, as you can see, it is a qualification and designed for the dentist whose primary qualification in dentistry is outside of the UK. So you need to do this exam to be able to work in the UK. And it has 3 parts, as you can see. So LDS Part 1, which is a remote exam, is computer-based. The main advantage for this part 1 is that you don't have to physically be in the UK, so you can do the exam at the comfort of your home outside of the UK, and then if you pass it for the part 2 and part 3, you have to come to the UK, so you need to consider about getting a visa and be able to travel to UK before even booking that exam. Because what is important, that's for both ORE and LDS, that booking an exam not necessarily is enough document for the Home Office to issue you a visa if you're not currently living in the UK. LDS Part 2 is face-to-face exam and it's done over 2 days. One day is the OSCE scenario, so objective structured clinical examination, and the second day is about structured clinical reasoning examination, which again, it's about 6 20-minute stations that you're going to go through unseen cases, and then you have to take a history, come up with a diagnosis, treatment plan. I believe this is similar to the DTP component of the ORE exam. And then part 3, we have the components of the part 3. Again, this exam is done over 1 day, and it's 180 minutes basically session that you're going to do dental mannequin, and it's a practical clinical skills. But let's have a closer look of the step-by-step and what needs to be done. So for the part 1, the upcoming parts, the next part is in June 2026. I'm recording this video in May 2026. The booking for this exam is already passed. It was in March 26, and the fee for part 1 for June 26 is 900. But from the next exam upward, the fees has increased by about £225. So the next sitting after that is going to be in October 2026, and the booking is 27th of June for that, and the fee for exam is £1,025, and then results will come up about 5 to 6 weeks afterwards. So to be able to book for part 1 exam, you need to have some documents ready. If you are not an EEA university graduate, you need to have that INIC statement or NARIC statement, which I discussed in the ORE webinar. So you go to the INIC website, you need to upload your primary qualification, your syllabus, your grades and transcripts. If they are not in English, everything needs to be officially stamped and officially translated to English and then attached, plus any additional documents that I need, any certificate of name change or your passport, and then you'll get that statement, and then you need to have your passport. You don't need to send any physical documents to LDS. There is an email address that you need to send all of your documents scanned via email to that address. I believe you need to pay for the exam at the time of booking of the exam. So once you secure your spot for LDS Part 1, you only have 1 week to send them the supporting documents. So make sure before booking, before paying for the appointments, you have everything ready, scanned. You book your appointments and you send all of your documents to the email address that's written on the form. Otherwise, they will deduct 20% of the admin fee. They'll return you the rest, and you will lose your spot on the exam list. If you fail part 1 and you need to sit part 1 again, you don't need to resubmit all of these informations again. They can just have access to your records back then. So part 1 exam is delivered online, and there are 2 papers for this exam. Paper A, they will check your clinically applied dental science and clinically applied human disease. You have 150 single best answer question and 3 hours. And paper B is again most likely parts of clinical dentistry, law and ethics, and health and safety. Again, 150 questions, single best answer questions, and over 3 hours. And all of them, it's done in 1 day. So it's in 1 day. The format of the exam is in English, and you need to submit all of your documents before that. On the website, there are also information about the syllabus of the exam. Again, it should be very similar to ORE Part 1. Back in the day when I was doing it, it was a common knowledge that LDS Part 1, it's less extensive in terms of the theory aspect of the topics that needs to be covered compared to ORE. But what made me to go for ORE back then was that ORE Part 1 was more frequent than LDS, and the booking was slightly more straightforward back then. However, now things have changed. Both of them, they are really frequent. They're happening every 3 to 4 months. So June, July, August, September, October, every 4 months we have a sitting. All of these institutes, they have increased their sitting. So again, things might have changed. You need to see which best suits your condition and then book that pathway. After you pass LDS Part 1, you are eligible to sit for LDS Part 2, which is done over 2 days. For this exam, you need to be able to, in the UK, it's a face-to-face exam done over 2 days. So think about making sure if you live in the UK, that doesn't apply to you, but if you're living outside of the UK, you need to make sure you can get visa. And I repeat again, just a certificate of booking a spot on this exam is not necessarily a guarantee that Home Office will issue a visa. And this sentence is clearly mentioned on the GDC website and on the Royal College website as well. It might be a supporting document, but doesn't necessarily guarantee you a visa. It's not like you have a spot in university that they can issue you a student visa. To be able to do Part 2, you should have done Part 1 within the past 5 years. So again, there is an expiry date. LDS Part 1, between Part 1 and Part 2, if it's more than 5 years, you cannot sit Part 2. And then you need to check if you are eligible to sit at LDS 1 again, and you repeat that pathway. For Part 2, another supporting document that needed is a clinical experience and a clinical reference. That you have completed 1,600 hours of clinical dentistry, again similar to ORE. If you are using your undergraduate experience as a reference, that letter needs to be signed by Education Dean or Dean of the university that you did your undergraduate qualification. If you've worked after your graduation, your employer or your line manager need to certify that letter, and also they need to briefly explain what sort of treatments you've provided, whether you were a good clinician and you didn't have any misconduct. So for the clinical references, also there might be some multiple people verifying and stating that you had some experiences, but in total is on coming to 1,600 clinical hours. If you had a temporary GDC registration in the UK, you've been working, you need to also get a letter from your employer or line manager that you've been working in the UK, and that letter again needs to be certified. Their contact details, address and everything needs to be clearly stated in case college wants to contact them to basically verify the letter. If you are studied your undergraduate in a country that or the course that wasn't taught in English, you need to have an English basically test done, either IELTS, TOEFL. Again, with IELTS, it's very similar to ORE, band score 7, IELTS academic, no item less than 6.5. And there are also requirements if you want to do the TOEFL exam. Again, you can have a look at the requirements to see what sort of TOEFL you need to do. Certificate of good standing letter. Again, this is very similar to ORE. employee, you need to get it from the regulatory body in the country that you have worked, and you did your primary qualification to make sure you were safe to practice, you haven't been eliminated from the registration list, you hadn't had any misconduct or any issues. This needs to be by email. It depends on the scenario. Sometimes it's by email, but usually they wanted this by post. So for the good standing letter, you need to send a letter or certificate of good standing from the dental authority where you last worked. If for any reason you cannot get this, you can send a witness affidavit or affirmation. There are some guidelines about that. You can refer to the website to see how it's done. You can contact college for further advice, and it must explain why you cannot get the document and confirm that you are allowed to practice dentistry. For the character reference, you need to provide the LDS character reference form. The character reference form that's provided by Royal College of Surgeons of England, this needs to be completed by a GDC or GMC register, so essentially a dentist or doctor that has known you for more than a year, or a person of similar standing from their own country who has known the applicants well for at least 1 year. And again, your relatives, your family members cannot be your character references. They have to write everything in full capitals, and then they need to certify that you are in good character. They need to write if they are a UK resident, UK like GDC or GMC registered, they need to put their registration number, contact details and everything, because they might be contacted to verify the information that they have provided. If you have changed your name, you need to provide the evidence and the certificate and official letters that you've done so, and inform, because if, for example, your name on your qualification certificate is different from your name on the passport right now or anything else, then they will reject the application and they will need further information. So it's better that you put it from the beginning to make sure it's not delayed. If you've booked and you have paid, you don't lose your spot in the exam. As of May 2026, the upcoming exam for part 2 is June 2026. The application is right now closed, so the exam part 2 is happening on 10th and 12th of June. The exam fee for June 2026 is £1,575. The next exam is going to be on July 2026. Again, the application for this one is right now closed as well, and the fee is £1,575. The next batch of exam is in September 2026. We just missed the application. It was on 18th of May, and that exam, the fee from September 26 for part 2 is slightly increased, but again about roughly 200 to 300. So for September 2026, the exam is £1,793 for the 2-part exam. After that, the exam is on November 26th, and again the application is on August 2026. So again, LDS part 2 is really fairly frequent. It's happening every couple of months. The fee is much less than ORE part 2, and the fact that the OSCEs and unseen cases are separate from mannequin, I believe it reduces the pressure, reduces the load, and also it gives you some space to prep for the other one slightly separately. So all your efforts are focused on less components, so it improves and increases the chance of passing the exam. Again, bear in mind that back then it wasn't the case, so LDS, it was again part 1 and part 2, but now they've improved the exam, they've increased the frequency, the booking is much more straightforward as well. The same regulations happen if you don't submit your application. You're going to lose your spot. You might not get a refund, or they're going to deduct some fees if you don't submit your application on time. And there are some supporting documents about the syllabus and everything that you need to read for this part. If you, for any reason, you cannot submit the evidence of your clinical experience because you are a refugee or asylum seeker, you need to contact college separately to ask for advice MRIs, and then other alternative techniques of verification of your clinical experience. So please contact the college and ask for help. For the certificate of good standing for college, again, remember that this one and the character reference, they have a 3 months expiry date. And for the letter of good standing, you need to submit the original document to the college. So the letter of good standing, it has an expiry date of 3 months. It needs to be issued by the country you are qualified as a dentist. If after qualification you worked in another country before also moving to the UK, you need to get a good standing letter from that country as well. So you might need to have two if you've worked in multiple countries, and you need to submit the original document to the college as well. And again, bear in mind that this has expiry date. Now we get to the last and final part of LDS, LDS Part 3. To be able to do LDS Part 3, you should have passed Part 1 and Part 2 within the past 5 years. So again, there is a time limit for LDS. The fee for the exam as of now is £1,525. Upcoming exams, the next Part 3 is in June 2026. The application is closed. After that is in October 2026, but from October the fees has slightly increased. So Part 3, it has increased from about 1,500 to 1,700, so roughly about 200 to 250 increase. Again, it's quite reasonable. The booking for 17th of October exam for Part 3 opens on 20th of July. So if you're thinking about booking your Part 3 right now, save the date, it's 20th of July. LDS Part 3 is a face-to-face exam, so you need to be in the UK, and it's a clinical exam session. So you need to provide a required dental treatment for 3 patients in a treatment session, which is about 3 hours. You're assessed on the direct, indirect restorations, cavity preparations, crown prep, endodontic procedures, minimally invasive techniques, clinical procedures during removable partial denture provision, non-surgical periodontal treatment, and minor oral surgery procedures. You'll be also assessed about how you interpret the data, clinical judgment, about your decision making. You are judged about your communication, professionalism, and health and safety considerations as well. You need to make sure you come to this exam in a professional clinical setup, which is usually scrubs, and make sure there are not any accessories, hair back. If you have short hair, that's fine, but if you have long hair, they have to be back. Not much accessories, so everything should be basically in terms of infection control clean. Your sleeves should be above the elbow. Again, this is because of infection control. There shouldn't be things hanging from you. Again, these are health and safety hazards. You can wear a cap if you want to, clinical caps, that's fine. You are allowed to bring in your magnification loops or protective goggles if you wish to. Make sure your shoes are also a clinical professional as well. Usually they have to be a waterproof solid shoes. Make sure they are not like sandals or anything with barefoot in terms of your protection if you're working in a clinical setting. You need to be aware of that. So the safe approach is a set of scrubs, reasonable color, and make sure there are not much accessories. Very clean, tidy, and professional that you go there. And then the exam is happening in these clinical simulation areas in the, I believe, I don't know where exactly it is. It might be at Queen Mary, I think, Royal London Dental Hospital, LDS Part 3 happening. They will give you the information, but this is how usually it looks like no matter what the exam is happening. You're given some time to watch introductory video, familiarize yourself with the materials that they have provided for you before the exam starts. So on the day, you're divided in 2 batch probably, group 1 and group 2. One group you start with the cases A and Plan B, which is 140 minutes. The other group, they start with the observed clinical sessions, which is case number C, and then you swap as well. They will explain to you everything. Don't worry about it shouldn't affect anything. Anyway, you have to be prepared for any scenario. And then at the end, you leave the exam, and then the results will be released. You will not be able or allowed to bring any materials or instruments or anything that say, oh, I'm happy, I usually use this. So you have to do the exam with the materials and instruments that are provided for you to make sure it's a safe and fair exam for everyone. Once you've successfully passed LDS Part 3, you need to pay £230 as application processing fee, and then you will register with the General Dental Council. You also need to fill a health declaration form. I declare that, to the best of my knowledge, I'm not suffering from, nor am I a carrier of any infectious disease, blood-borne viruses, or other transmitted disease which might jeopardize the well-being of patients. I further declare that I have no reason to believe that such infectious or transmissible disease may be present. You need to sign it, full name and everything. If you cannot basically provide the health declaration, you must provide original hepatitis B, Hep C and HIV certificate, which have been authenticated from an accredited UK laboratory to show your full serology status. It has a 3 months expiry date. So this is the end of the video about LDS exam, the curriculum, how to book, and how every step is as you move forward with your registration process and exam process, what you need to prepare, whether they have expiry date or they don't. And I hope it's helpful for you. If you have any questions or any comment for those who want to start this exam, please let us know in the comment section. And if I can help with anything, I would be glad to do so.